What's going on, everybody? Got another breakdown of college football playoff rankings and college football pick'em with my main man, the StuCast, representing the Lane Train all the way from Oxford, Mississippi. Gotta love it, man. Hopping on the Lane Train. I'll give Lane Kiffin a lot of credit. I think what he's doing at Ole Miss, he has a great offense. I think he can get the ball rolling. He's done a great job recruiting South Florida players. Their starting quarterback, Matt Corral, looks like he's going to be a good one. He wins the Egg Bowl against Mike Leach year one. Looks like things are going the right way. But as we all know, Lane Kiffin, you just take everything with a grain of salt. He may jump on you. You never know. That guy loves to jump from school to school. Or you can be left at an airport at any given time. So, gotta love it, man.
You want to know the funny thing? So, like in the city of Knoxville, if you were a Tennessee head coach, you get a street named after you, whether you were good or bad or what have you. You know what street they named after Lane Kiffin?
What street did they name? I got nothing.
So they didn't. It's a trick question. They didn't name a street after him. The local sanitation department is named after him. So that's a little SEC humor. The SEC hits different. I appreciate it. But no, come to the SIP. I love what Lane's building there, and Matt Corral is coming back next year. I think that's a very exciting team. He needs to build a couple classes together, but that's a team in a couple years that could be a big thorn in the side for a lot of SEC teams.
Let's get into the college football playoff rankings. Not a lot of movement, 25 through 20. We got to start it off with the big time matchup. The Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, that is a first ballot Hall of Fame name in my books, head to BYU. Wow, this game was scheduled in literally less than a week before their game. Man,
it got scheduled tonight.
Matchup. I'm excited about this. I feel like BYU specifically chose the Chanticleers for this week's matchup. They could have scheduled Miami. We won't get into it, guys. They could have if they wanted to.
They didn't want to schedule. They obviously dodged Washington.
You're right. They dodged Washington. So, Stu, what do you think about the Chanticleers at 18? They moved up 2 spots. I'm personally insulted that North Carolina jumped 2 spots after losing to Notre Dame. Like, I don't understand it. I get they have a great offense, but still, it's not making sense to me.
It's good for Miami because I think Miami's going to end up beating North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that's going to – I'm calling that right now. Look,
locking your bets.
the Chanticleers, man. I tell you what, man. I love this team. It's a fun team to watch. McCall is one of the most underrated quarterbacks. He's a fun guy. I know college basketball season's here, and there are so many. Like you look at Western Kentucky has Tavion Hollingsworth and Charles Bassey, and you look at those guys, they're fun as heck to watch. Coastal Carolina is the same way. I mean, these are no-name guys that you should not know who they are, but they're fun. BYU picked this game, though, because the Chanticleers struggle against the pass, and they're going to exploit it in a way that I don't think they could really do against Washington. The Huskies have an okay defense. It's a tougher game, and it doesn't look as good versus a game against Coastal Carolina. So they pick and chose their spots. I'm going to be rooting like hell for the Chanticleers to win. But this is a game that BYU picked, and yeah, I don't get the NC move up. I thought their game against Notre Dame went about as expected. North Carolina will beat the hell out of you if you have a really bad defense. They will put up points. If you're a bad team, period, you look at Duke, you look at NC State, you look at some of these teams that they've just throttled. Vatek. When they play a real team, they struggle. They struggle to move the ball. They struggle to defend. They struggle on everything they want to do. So I think it's good for Miami because it'll boost them up when they beat them. But, not much to say more on North Carolina.
Wisconsin stays at number 16. Oklahoma State jumps 8 spots after a shootout with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Curious about that. They get blown out by Oklahoma. What is the obsession with the Big 12 in the college football playoff rankings? You have Oklahoma at 11 with 2 losses. Oklahoma State at 15. I'm very curious about the college football playoff committee's kind of just opinion on these teams. One team I want to talk about, Pat Fitzgerald's Northwestern Wildcats. Mel Tucker does it again.
Get out of here.
For the boys from East Lansing. Gotta love it, man.
No, you don't. You don't have to love it. I tell you, this is okay. So what'd you tell me a few weeks ago? You said never bet on your own team. And I'll tell you what, I jacked up, Paul. I jacked up. I put the house on Northwestern because I said this is a top 5 defense in the country. Even though the offense isn't that great, they will suffocate Michigan State. I think I sent you a DM before the game.
You did.
Is it possible this team scores negative points? Well, they didn't score negative points. They actually outscored Northwestern by 9. Look, I'm still kind of shaking my head at it. I think Mel Tucker, and this is not me being a homer as a Spartan fan, I think you got to look at him as a consideration for Coach of the Year because he got saddled with one of the worst situations in the entire country, and he beat a Michigan team, even though they were overranked and like all that stuff. They beat a Michigan team that was a top 15 team in the country.
Right.
And they were the first to expose them. And then they went ahead and beat a solid top 10 team. Right. Granted, you throw in a blowout loss to Iowa, you get shut out by Indiana. I mean, there's just not talent here. There's not talent on the team, but yet he's coaching them up and he's picking his spots and he's coaching well. So God bless him. Northwestern's problem is essentially this. Their offense is under 300 yards a game. They got outgained by Nebraska. They were under 300 yards against Iowa. Every single game is, except for the Maryland game, which is first week after I'm taking all the first week stuff out of my analysis because it's starting to prove to me that first week or two is kind of it's aberrations, right? Teams that get punched in the mouth, they weren't prepared. You take that away, and this is a team that is going to put up under 300 yards of total offense. They're going to struggle to move the ball. Their defense is good. It's a bend, don't break thing. And, they broke. You get a couple big plays downfield, they're going to break. It's something Wisconsin couldn't do because I don't think Wisconsin this year can. And I think you start looking at this team going forward. It's a good team. He's got the program back where he wants it, but there's a lot of holes in it, and I think it proves to everybody. And I think Barry Alvarez, the former he's the AD for Wisconsin, the former Wisconsin head coach, he basically came out and said, "Look, our only shot at making the top 4 is Ohio State. We need to make this season. We need to start getting things going because if Ohio State doesn't make the top 4, the Big Ten loses a lot of money. That's a revenue sharing conference. And they would steamroll Northwestern, Wisconsin, you name it. They're just so much better."
Stu, I'm going to stand by the statement. The Big Ten is extremely overrated. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's
this year. But compared to what, though? Compared to what?
I just think.
Don't tell me the ACC.
I'll say this: if you put in a bracket, you get Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio State. You line them up with Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, North Carolina, ACC, Big Ten Challenge. But in football, ACC wins out of those 4 teams. That's just my opinion.
North Carolina would lose to Indiana. They would lose to Wisconsin. I think they could even possibly lose to Minnesota prior to all the opt-outs at Minnesota. I think they could have even lost to Minnesota. North Carolina's weak spot is a good offense and just a decent defense. If you have that combination, you are jacked up. I'm not going to get into what I think Miami would do. I think there's about 4 good teams in the Big Ten, and Michigan doesn't make that list, and Penn State doesn't make that list. But I think top to bottom, I think there's a little bit more depth.
More depth, per se. More
depth.
More depth.
I've had this conversation. I've had this argument with my buddy, the Bobcat, on the StuCast. You can check him out. Feel free to call him an idiot. But I've talked to him, and we were sitting down in some random place in Africa. I won't get into it. And we were getting into an argument, and it was about what is better, the ACC or the Big Ten. And this was last year, right? I think when you go top to bottom, Ohio State, Clemson kind of cancel each other out. I think some of these, the North Carolinas, the Miamis, clearly second. Notre Dame, they don't count as the ACC until they sign on full time, which I don't think they will do.
No, which is smart on their end.
I don't think so. But
NBC, you have a channel dedicated to every single game that you play.
There's more money available. There's more. If the ACC network didn't have their head shoved up so far, their hoo-has, they could make some money. But the ACC network is run by the same fools who ran the Big East. So, like, what are we talking about here? I think the Big Ten and the SEC network, they make money, right? And Notre Dame, they're not allowed to go in the Big Ten. They can't go anywhere else, so they play ACC. And this will keep them independent for a few more years until, basically until the Big 12 kind of implodes, which will happen in a couple of years. But, I just think top to bottom, the Big Ten is just more stout every single year. Because I think Northwestern could take out 70% of the ACC.
Northwestern, they just lost to Michigan State. That's my thing. I mean,
and Michigan State could take out a Syracuse, could take out a Pittsburgh, could take out Virginia.
Look, Pittsburgh's not a bad football team. Don't underestimate them. They're very scrappy. They're very scrappy.
Yeah, you get that Kenny Pickett jersey out, baby.
No, I'm good, man. I got an old school Tony Dorsett. Damn. Let's get into oh yeah. Let's get into number 13, BYU. Look, even if they beat the Chanticleers by 40, I don't think they move. I don't think they move at all. I don't think this was the appropriate matchup for them to crash the top 10. I think it's really an irrelevant game, and I hope the Chanticleers beat BYU. And the Chanticleers, Myrtle Beach, will be the number 1 tourist attraction locked in the whole entire United States. I guarantee you.
Well, it was certainly the number 1 super spreading place during COVID season. I'll tell you, I agree with you. BYU, it'll look good on their resume, but they're capped. They're not gonna make the top 4. Their best case scenario is print the T-shirts like UCF, claim they were champions, raise a banner. I don't know, but I don't think the Mormons will do that. So, rooting for the Chanticleers like you. So good luck to them. It'll be a fun game to watch.
Indiana at 12 and 11. Indiana's quarterback, Michael Penix, I believe that's his name.
Yep.
Is out for the entire season. Huge loss for the program. Looks like everything is going to go downhill. I have not given up on Lincoln Riley, Spencer Rattler. Their offense is rolling right now. I think Oklahoma can make a run into crashing the top 10 and finish really nice at the end of the year. I strongly believe that. Everyone doubted Lincoln Riley, and you know what? He came through big time.
I think Oklahoma's they're stuck. I'll double back to that. Indiana, Jack Tuttle, the Utah transfer, he's taken over. This Indiana team's a good ball club. It's one of the better Indiana teams I've ever seen in my lifetime. Horrible what happened to Michael Penix. He probably won't be back for a year and a half. And it's a shame. It really is a shame. But Tom Allen's building something, and I think Indiana's going to be respectable going forward. I think they bought some credibility this year, but tough for them. Oklahoma, if their big loss this year, Kansas State and Iowa State, if they play both those teams right now, they beat them, and they'd handle them. They're laying 21.5 against Baylor this week, and I love Oklahoma. I think Spencer Rattler has finally settled in, and he's ready to go. Lincoln's got this team just moving. They are stuck, though, because the teams ahead of them, I don't foresee losing, and so they're just kind of just chilling. But, I mean, they're not going to impact the top 4, top 6. I think they're just outside of that based on their losses.
Let's get into the top 10. At number 10, Miami stays with a record of 7-1, and they get jumped by Iowa State, who lost to the Ragin' Cajuns week 1. Stu, what are your thoughts about this flip?
So you brought up the Ragin' Cajun game. I mean, that's a BS game. You gave up 2 punt returns and a trick play for 80 yards. I mean, Louisiana Lafayette is not a bad team. They are not a bad team. In the Fun Belt, that is a good team. That's the Fun Belt this year is a solid conference. And I'm of the opinion that if you're the top dog in your conference, you deserve that top 10 spot. So I think a lot of Miami fans can get behind it and go, oh, well, they're leading the Big 12. I guess it makes sense.
I think if the committee wanted to, they can have Miami at that 7th spot, and they could have Cincinnati at that 9 or 10 spot. I really do. I just think Miami hasn't won convincingly. They're in literally shootouts with Virginia Tech, NC State, for example. Pittsburgh was another close game. They have to win more convincingly. I think that's what's missing. They have Duke this week. Is it going to be another close game for Miami? I think Miami has a great opportunity to prove how good they are against North Carolina, which is ranked.
That's a game, right?
That's
it. I mean, yeah. I see your point, though. I would probably, looking at this, I would move Georgia to 10 or 11, move up Oklahoma 10 or 11 in that spot. I'd probably put Miami 9th just based on record, and it's a gritty team. You got to beat Duke, and you got to beat Duke convincingly. I don't want to see this 19-14 type stuff that you pulled at Bronco Mendenhall. I don't want to see this 1-point victory over Vatek. I don't want to see that out of the U. You have to start making a statement. You have to start stepping on some people's necks. Luke Fickell got the memo weeks ago for Cincinnati, and look at where they are. I mean, and the best team they beat is UCF, who struggled against Temple. Get out of here. I mean, that's basically where it's at. Miami's got to get some style points going, and they have every opportunity. This is a defense that is a bend, don't break type defense. They can hold North Carolina under 30. But the big thing is that you gotta get De'Aaron King to go out there, and he's got to create 40, 45 points.
And, Stu, their test was Clemson. They didn't show up. They played embarrassingly. I was there in Clemson, South Carolina to watch it, so I don't want to hear from anyone sitting from the couch that, hey, no, that wasn't a good judgment for Miami. Like, no, we traveled to Clemson. I was there sitting in my seat live, and I was pissed. I had to drive middle of the night back home. I don't want to hear it in the pouring rain. So I don't want to hear from someone sitting on the couch. Here's my thing. Miami's, if they're going to prove a point on national television, it's going to be against a marquee opponent in the bowl. If they're going to play in the Orange Bowl, they're going to play Texas A&M or Florida. That's how they're going to prove how good they are. If they get blown out again, well, this really wasn't a good football team. It really wasn't. But if they put up a fight, if they win, that's when we'll know Miami is making progress.
I just see Miami this year as a good football team. I don't know that the bowl game necessarily. It's all about the future. Derek King coming back next year, and you get some wide receiver. You need to get some wide receivers. Christian Harris needs to really open up this running game. You really need to get some players in here. And I don't know that the transfer portal is going to bring you in 10 new starters like Manny Diaz probably wants it to.
Love it.
I mean, you're playing. So my Spartans are going to be heavy in the transfer portal.
We got them next year.
Heavy.
We got them next year. We want them.
Yeah, well, I would too. I mean,
he doesn't want the smoke.
Derek King will probably put up a 40 by himself just running the ball against Michigan State.
That's a win for the ACC. That is a win for the ACC, Stu. Marquee victory.
Okay. Well, Michigan played a school for the blind, and they counted that as a victory. Same thing. So I just think you guys need to get that wide out, that O-line complement. You got to fill in the gaps that Phillips and Roche are going to leave. You got to shore up that defense. Next year's the year. I think this year is just kind of I think it's just kind of stagnant, right? That Clemson game's going to hurt you. And unless you pull a rabbit out of the hat and you beat UNC by 40, which I don't think is doable. I mean, honestly, I just don't see Miami. I don't see a way in which Miami beats them by 30, 40 points. It's hard to sell Miami.
Last thing I'll say about Miami, then we'll move on. 7 losses last year. We're ranked number 10, 7-1. College football playoff rankings. Gotta love it. Manny Diaz for coach of the year. Dark horse? I think so.
Question. One question before we move on. I know we got to keep it moving. What percentage of that do you give to Manny Diaz? What percentage of that do you give that to Derek King?
Oh my gosh, great question.
Because Williams was he was capable last year, but was he god awful. He had moments. He was like
he had his highs, and then he had one high, and then he had his lows. I mean, he had his lows. Extremely lows. I mean, just the maturity level as well. Manny Diaz recruited Derek King. He brought in Rhett Lashley. He completely overturned the offense. We're winning football games. We're winning close football games. We're developing a winning culture. So, you got to give a lot of credit to Manny Diaz and a lot of credit to Derek King because we're winning a lot of football games we would not win without Derek King under center. So, got to give credit to both guys moving forward for the direction of the program. And special teams has been a complete 180. So hell of a job. We probably have the best kicker punter duo in college football. Got to love it. At number 7, Cincinnati stays at 8-0. I think they're going to stay there moving forward. I don't think they jump Florida or Texas A&M. I think those two programs, Florida or Texas A&M, are on the outside looking in. And as much as I love the Miami Hurricanes, I will say this. Jimbo Fisher and Dan Mullen, both of those coaches deserve to be candidates for coaches of the year. What they've done at those two programs, I tip my hat off to them. It's not, you don't have to be biased to appreciate good coaches and what they're doing at an SEC program this season. Tremendous job by both of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you're now up to date on Bearcat football, this is a defense that is suffocating. They are very impressive. This is a team that Desmond Ridder, I'm not sold on. I really am not. I don't think he can make the deep pass on a regular, consistent basis, but they have talent at wideout. They have a stout O-line, a good running game. Defense will beat you up. This is a Cincinnati team that could beat Georgia, that could beat Wisconsin, that could beat, go down the list of teams. This is a Cincinnati team that, like, for real, it's weird. It's a weird 2020, like we always say, this team is correctly placed, even being in the AAC, which is a good football conference, by the way. A&M, it is. A&M, look, what Jimbo Fisher's done with all the opt-outs, I said it last week, it's impressive. You got to wish, what would this team be like with James Osmond on the field? Multiple defensive starters out. They opted out. I love what's happened there. I still don't think Jimbo Fisher's a good coach, but I think what they're doing is pretty impressive. I like them. We'll talk more about them as I wrap up my picks for the week. And Florida, it's basically you can't only beat Vanderbilt by 17 points. You can't beat Kentucky by 24. You got to kill these teams, right? These are less than teams, and when you're keeping them, Vanderbilt was in that game in the fourth quarter. Vanderbilt is a bottom 15 team in the country. They are, and I love me some Kenny Seals, but they are bottom 15 in the country. You can't keep them around in the fourth quarter. I don't care how many trick plays or how many new schemes they bust out. You cannot do that. This is a defense that is got gaping holes in it. And this is Dan Mullins. This is Dan Mullins in a nutshell. We're not going to pay attention to defense. We're going to pound offense. Offense down in your face. Eat it for dinner and eat it for lunch tomorrow. And he's going to have some problems in a couple weeks when he has to go to Atlanta and he gets to play a real complete team. But they're properly slotted.
Stu, where were you when the squib kick happened?
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? Where were you sitting?
I was watching it, and I was like, they did not just let her. So I had to think about it for a minute, but when I initially saw it, I was like, you let her kick the ball 20 yards? That's it? What do we do? Okay. But then I thought about it, and I was like, oh, that's smart, because she's not going to get in the game because they can't make it past the opponent's 30. So, it's a good development, I think. If you got the talent to kick, and there's a lot of talent out there, it's good. It's good for the game, but it's probably not the optics you need. Probably should have just held that one back until you could get in field goal range.
Let's get into the top four, Stu. I think this will be our college football playoff. We got Ohio State at 4. I think the committee lets them in 4-0. Obviously, they already have. The season ended tomorrow. Clemson 8-1. Notre Dame 9-0. That's a very suspect Notre Dame team, but they beat Clemson. Got to give them credit. Their Clemson's quarterback, DJ Ugali, he still threw for like over 300 yards, or was it 400? A stupid number in that.
Yeah,
game.
It was over 400. I think 430, 420, somewhere around there.
I mean, he did his job. I mean, 420 yards. I mean, even Trevor Lawrence is in there. I mean, hey, it doesn't really matter in my opinion. Alabama at 8-0. What do you think about this top four? Are these the teams going to represent the college football playoff, or there will be another school crashing the top four?
For the first time in my life, I actually have to admit the ACC is going to dictate the college football playoff. So,
and you just said You just said the Big Ten will take on the ACC. Gotta love
Hey,
it.
by the way,
Gotta
how'd Duke do against my Spartans last night? Anyway,
That's a different story. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. We can talk college basketball. I'm fine with that.
Clemson needs to beat Notre Dame. If Clemson loses, it's as simple as this. Texas A&M is probably going to get that spot.
Deservedly
This is
so.
bottom line. Even though they lost by 24 or 28 to Alabama, they're going to get that spot. And then they'll get destroyed by Alabama again. I don't personally see what the difference between Trevor Lawrence and DJ is. I really don't. I get that Trevor's a better quarterback, but when you show me a guy who's throwing for over 350, over 400 against Boston College and Notre Dame, a guy that's moving the ball. I mean, they were moving the ball. It's just that they couldn't run against Notre Dame. ETN is on the side of a milk carton this year, and that's not going to change whether it's Trevor or DJ taking the snap. I think this is a defense that has very exploitable holes. I don't see players on this defense that really strike the fear of God into me. Ohio State, like I said earlier, Barry Alvarez is going to make sure. I think the Big Ten is going to make sure one way or another Ohio State gets in. And they are a very dangerous team against a Clemson. They are a very dangerous team against a Notre Dame. Those are very strong matchups. In Notre Dame, the way they handled a game, it probably should have been a lot closer. It probably should have. And they handled their business against North Carolina. And I've been wrong about this Notre Dame team all year. This defense is legit. This offense can move the ball. They don't just rely on running. It's a very sound team. However, you've got Goliath waiting for you. Give me what I've seen the last 3 weeks out of Alabama. I've seen a defense that has very, very few, if any, holes in. They'll get exploited when you play a Clemson to some extent. I think if you can throw the ball, if you can really drop back to pass, exploit the middle of the field, you'll get after Alabama. But it's tough to do, man. You got to get the ball out of your hands.
I would love to see an Alabama Texas A&M matchup. If Texas A&M, if Jimbo Fisher can somehow pull
They're not
that
close,
off,
brother.
It's just one. Think about it.
Yeah, that's like saying, what would happen if Michigan State went to the Big Ten championship? It's just not going to happen. Well, Texas A&M is just. They are so far beneath where A&M. That's why they lost the first game by 24 or 27 or whatever it was. That's just Alabama is that good.
I'll say this. I think Texas A&M can beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
So just if you get that matchup, they might sneak into the title game. And no, I don't think they're going to win the national title, but
they would have to jump to third, and I just don't see it happening. I think you would see Notre Dame, Ohio State, and I think you would see Alabama versus Clemson or A&M. And I like Alabama to beat Clemson, and I love Alabama. Like, you want to talk about mortgaging my house and putting my 401k on something responsibly, bet responsibly, folks. But responsibly putting my entire house on the line against Notre Dame and Ohio State would be on Alabama. I hope that happens. I really do, because I don't see how Alabama has any issue with Notre Dame. There's a level that you cannot defend the run and the pass at the same time. And Georgia's defense, when it was healthy, was top 3 in the country, bar none. Could not touch it. And Alabama carved them up.
Stu, let's get into the college football pick'em. I know you got to go, got to run your college basketball show tonight. Go check it out, man. This StuCast. I don't know anyone who's more knowledgeable than the Stu when it comes to every single college sport, Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL. I mean, he does it all. He's that knowledgeable. He's even into horse racing. He knows an equestrian that works with a bookie. It gets crazy. It's amazing. I love it.
The SEC might be listening, so let's keep that bit down.
Yeah, we won't. If the NCAA is hearing us, I don't think they really care. I mean, let's be real. SEC football is the dirtiest as it gets. I mean,
well, I was talking about the Securities Exchange Commission, but SEC football does not care. They fully two thumbs up. I'm getting the cue from the lane train that we're all good to go. You just probably need to come to the SIP. # come to the SIP. I appreciate it. Yeah, we do a lot of stuff. It's not just gambling. It's talking about a lot of sports. And you give me too much credit, Paul. I rely on folks like yourself and other great people around the country to help fill me in on, hey, look, I know some names on Miami, but I don't know the team as well as you do. So it helps fill me in. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. We're there.
And I think we just lost him. The StuCast, go check him out. Puts in a ton of work. Tremendous job. Not only, just for he's back.
Yeah, I blacked out there. I got too excited about my picks. Last week I said if my picks aren't golden, you're getting them for free. So this week you're getting them for free. I'm going Bama. Bama first half, Bama team total, and Bama game. This is a revenge game. Coach O said some very, very scandalous things as they were leaving Tuscaloosa last year.
What do you say?
Basically something along the lines of roll tide, roll FU. I don't know how we can swear. I mean, it is midnight almost. But yeah, something to that effect. Nick Saban hasn't forgotten that. Take Bama in all three areas. I'll give you a Fun Belt game. UL Monroe, Arkansas State. The Red Wolves can put up points. They won last week 70-20. UL Monroe has the worst special teams I've ever seen in my life. Somehow they put up some points here and there. The over-under is 68.5. I love the over there. Give me that. A&M laying 7 to Auburn. I like A&M here. I think this line is very weird. So if this is one to leave off your list, it might be the play. I don't know. I can't tell you why the line is only 7 points other than if Gus Malzahn does not win this game against Texas A&M, he might be packing his bags right afterwards. I love Ohio State. 23.5 is a gift from Santa Claus early. The Ohio State backup team, all the backups playing could probably beat Michigan State alone. You don't know the COVID situation there. You don't know if Justin Fields is playing. That's scary, but still, Ohio State is so much better than anybody else, especially Michigan State is just – I love my team, but we're a few years away. And then I'll throw out some action. Central Michigan against Ball State. I like the money line. I think it's only a point that they're given, but, you could take that. I like the chips. Fire them up. And that'll do it for me. Since this is going out tonight, college basketball selection, Iowa, first half on Thursday. Iowa first half on Thursday against, I believe, Western Illinois, one of the worst teams in college basketball. And there's like 350 of them. They're one of the worst. Iowa first half.
Gotta love it, man. The StuCast hopping on again for another college football breakdown, college football pick'em. Locking your bets, locking your predictions, man. Maybe you'll run into a parlay. Stu, thank you so much, man.
Come to the sip. Come to the sip, Paul. Come on,
Lane
baby.
Train, I'm not buying in yet. I'm not buying in. He does a great job recruiting, great offense. I'm curious, defensive coordinator, who he'll pick up moving forward. I'm not bought in yet.
You just need like a little bit of love, a hug, a high five. You'll get there.
Look, I'm still not bought in with Manny. I got to see a whole another year from it. 2021 is a huge test. Alabama, once again, man. Once again, it's going to be another interesting.
You're going to get some comments in this video based off that statement.
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong against the bowl game we play, SEC marquee opponent. Prove me wrong against Alabama. Consistency. I saw
you guys are so the goal right now is probably to beat just finish with a 8-9 win season. This season's kind of a wash.
And I need to see prove me wrong against a marquee opponent because we did not show up against Clemson. Prove me wrong.
You don't have the talent yet.
Exactly. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. But what is going to prove me wrong with Manny is his adjustments with his defensive staff. And when he does that, then we'll talk.
Who do you want for DC?
Defensive coordinator?
Yeah. Who do you want?
It's not going to change. I want Manny to be the defensive coordinator, and I want him to build a strong staff around him. I want him to get, good recruiters per se. Packy's not a good recruiter. Cornerback situation is not pretty. I don't know who's in charge of that. It needs to be reevaluated at the cornerback position recruiting.
Okay. So Miami's issue right now, as I see it, defensively, I think the scheme is okay. I think the scheme is absolutely
I don't like
fine.
the scheme at all. I think you need to get the right personnel for that scheme, and that takes years to. I think we can play. We're playing way too much zone coverage, and we should be playing man.
A zone screws up a lot more college quarterbacks than it doesn't. I think zone is a safe play. You look at what's happened to Mississippi State in the air raid and whatever. The zone coverage really does screw up a lot of teams, and I think that's why Miami's won a couple games. I think the real issue is, look, you got a team up north in that swamp up in Gainesville, and what a crap town that is. But you go up to Gainesville, they can recruit. They can recruit. And Michigan's coming. J.J. McCarthy, which any day, how Manny Diaz hasn't gotten J.J. McCarthy to leave his commitment to Michigan?
Did he go to IMG Academy?
Yeah,
we don't do well with IMG kids. We don't have that connection. We don't have that pull. We get Brian Hightower. Art Stakowski was a quarterback we had. He got dropped from the class. We just don't.
Didn't he end up at Rutgers?
Yeah, he ended up at Rutgers.
He was okay at Rutgers. He was
no, he was awful. I saw him.
Rutgers was abysmal, and he was like the only guy that you could go.
Is he there?
He's okay, I guess.
Not if think about it. Miami dropped a quarterback, and he went to Rutgers before Shiano.
Well, he started. Look, it's an issue. It's an issue that Michigan is going down to Florida and getting kids that should probably end up at Miami.
They've always had that IMG pipeline connection, always. Because IMG, these kids, you got to remember too, they're not from the state of Florida per se. They're from out of state. Play that year there.
I'll ask you this: do you want to be in Ann Arbor in December, or you want to be in Miami?
Oh, I would think everybody wants to be in Miami. The thing is,
that's a hard sell. And plus, their coach is 1 year away from not having a contract.
I think, we're going to do a recruiting show tomorrow, and I think
I'm going to listen.
A lot of people are going to be satisfied with what Miami has. So we'll be good to go, Stu. And I'm telling you, next year is going to tell us a lot about Manny Diaz in his third year. You got Alabama, Michigan State. It's going to be a huge test. UNC with a junior year of Sam Howell. a lot of big tests for Manny Diaz. Another buckle up season. So
I've heard I heard one win, one definite loss, and one up in the air. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same boat. We're not ready for Alabama, especially.
No, not yet. But I think Saban's leaving after next year.
Where's he gonna go?
To the house.
To
the couch. To Fort Couch, as we used to say.
He's gonna retire?
He's already talking about what. So I always heard that his plan, assuming that Talia Tungavailoa was the next thing, he was going to ride out Talia's career and then call it quits. Talia kind of turned into what Talia is. His friends call him Leah. I'm not making that up. So I think now he's got a team that can win the national championship, and I think he'll stay another year or two through Bryce Young. And he'll want to leave Alabama in a good spot. But in a year or two, he's already talking about what his next role is. I think to some extent, I think he wants to be that guy in the future that helps shepherd the NCAA, because the NCAA, no doubt, is about to go through a dramatic change.
Right. Yeah.
And I think he wants to be the guy that does that. And I think that's how he feels he will cement his legacy. Because no matter how many chips he wins, I don't know that he supplants Bear Bryant in Alabama. But I think that is another challenge for him that he feels will validate him. Also, I'd be remiss before I know we're up against it. Please check out ncsports.com. My guys over there, $10, power plays, power sweep. These guys put a lot of work. I'm talking day and night. I just talked to them a couple hours ago. They're in the office. They got there at 8. They're there watching film, looking up stats, writing on every game. Check them out. ncsports.com, $10. You can check it out, see what you like, fill out what you're doing. If you're playing the games, where it's legal, and bet responsibly.
Love it, man. I'm heading over to Atlantic City right now. Stu, it was a pleasure, man.
Please take me. I'm on your way. Pick me up.
Sounds like a plan. Hope everyone has a great night, and always all about the U.